Welcome to the President James Monroe Study Guide. In 1816, James Monroe won a landslide victory to become the new President of the United States. The Democratic-Republican Party was incredibly popular after the War of 1812, but the Federalist Party was dying away. Political rivalries seemed to disappear as Americans were becoming increasingly patriotic, willing to work together. Many referred to this time as the era of good feelings. People felt good about everything. They felt good about the country, they felt good about the economy, they felt good about their lives. They were investing money, they were taking out loans to buy new land and property and buildings and businesses, and everything looked good. In 1815, the British started dumping goods in the U.S. Dumping is when you sell goods to a foreign country way below retail value. And the British were selling these goods at very low prices, hoping to force American factories out of business so they could reclaim that business. In 1816, Congress imposed a 25% tariff. It made the North very happy because people started buying American again. The South, on the other hand, imported most of their products, and so they were not happy to have to pay these higher prices. This created a lot of tension in America. The South especially felt like Congress was not looking out for them and could care less whether they were happy or not. Three important political figures came to power during this time. John C. Calhoun, who fought for the South, Daniel Webster, who fought for the North, and Henry Clay, who fought for the West. They all fought in Congress to try to get laws that were good for their part of the country. In the years following the War of 1812, James Monroe and his Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams, tried to resolve long-standing disputes with Great Britain and several other countries. In 1817, the Rush-Bagot Treaty limited the number of naval vessels that the U.S. and Canada could have on the Great Lakes. The treaty also provided for the disarmament, or removal of weapons, along the border between the U.S. and British Canada. The Convention of 1818 set a secure and demilitarized, meaning there would be no military to protect the border, boundary to the Louisiana Territory between the U.S. and Canada at the 49th parallel. Four countries had originally claimed the Oregon Country in early 1800s: Britain, Spain, Russia, and the United States. Spain and Russia eventually gave up their claims to the Oregon Territory. To prevent war, the British and American diplomats in the Convention of 1818 agreed to joint occupancy of Oregon. Thousands of Americans started streaming into the Oregon Country on the Oregon Trail, while the number of British residents remained fairly stable and small, which raised the question again: if there are way more Americans living here than British, who should be in control of the Oregon Country? In the Treaty of 1846, Britain and the U.S. compromised again by dividing Oregon into two parts, the American and the British sections, and the division took place at latitude 49 degrees north, or the 49th parallel, right where we had set the boundary to end the Louisiana Territory. During Monroe's presidency, many changes occurred in Latin America. James Monroe began the long-term foreign policy of keeping European powers out of the Americas. The idea of manifest destiny was also beginning to spread throughout America. Manifest destiny is the belief that Americans had the right, if not the duty, to expand and claim all the lands from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. In 1818, General Andrew Jackson invaded Spanish East Florida. He seized control of two of their Spanish forts. Now, his orders were to go and stop the Seminole attacks on the Americans in Florida. He was not given orders to attack the Spanish. So in capturing these two Spanish forts, Jackson went way beyond the orders he'd received from the White House. Luis Dionís, the Spanish minister to the U.S., protested and demanded that Jackson and his officers all be punished. John C. Calhoun, the Secretary of War, also agreed. He said that Jackson should be court-martialed along with his officers. But John Quincy Adams didn't agree with them. Adams believed that Spain did not want war, and he used this as an opportunity to negotiate the Adams-Onís Treaty in 1819, which gave East Florida to the United States. In exchange, the U.S. gave up its claims to Spanish Texas and took over a $5 million debt Americans had said that the Spanish owed. The treaty also extended the U.S. border northwest from the Gulf of Mexico to the 42nd parallel and west to the Pacific Ocean, as well as recognizing the U.S.'s claim to the Oregon Country. Spain claimed all of the land west of the Louisiana Territory to the Oregon Country for a very long time, until two Catholic priests, Father Miguel Hidalgo and Father José Morelos, led a revolution against Spain. In 1818, Father Hidalgo was captured and he was killed, but the revolution was successful, and in 1821, Mexico won its freedom from Spain. Mexico then invited American traders and settlers into its frontier lands with the hope of increasing trade and population and thereby boosting Mexico's economy. They soon questioned their decision, however. The agreement was that the Americans that came in would, 1, become Mexican citizens, 2, that they would abide by all Mexican laws, and 3, that they would become Catholic. Those were the agreements. Well, unfortunately, most of the Americans that came in stayed American citizens. They only followed the Mexican laws they wanted to, and most of them did not become Catholics. They might have pretended to for a while, but they didn't stay Catholic. They went back to their personal beliefs. At one point, the United States actually tried to buy territory from Mexico, but the Mexicans refused this. Relations between U.S. and Mexico got worse and worse, especially when the Americans living in Texas decided to have the Texas Revolution. They claimed Texas as their own independent country, the Republic of Texas. And Texas gained its independence from Mexico in 1836, and the United States gave statehood to Texas in 1845. These events caused Mexico to break off all diplomatic ties with the United States. There was a further dispute over exactly where was the border between Texas and Mexico. The Mexicans said it was the Nueces River, and the Americans said it was the Rio Grande. Well, within a year, Mexico and America were at war. Mexico was defeated in the Mexican-American War, and they ended up losing almost half of their territory to the United States. In 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the war. The U.S. paid $15 million for the Mexican cession, which gave the United States the area that includes California, New Mexico, Arizona, and a number of other states. In South America, independence came because of the efforts of two men. Simón Bolívar, known as the Liberator, led the movement that won freedom for Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Bolivia, and Ecuador. And José de San Martín successfully achieved independence for Chile and Peru. In 1824, most of South America had liberated itself from Spain. Portugal's large colony of Brazil gained its independence peacefully in 1822. Simón Bolívar and the other Latin American leaders were inspired to strive for independence by using the United States' example of gaining its independence from Great Britain. Americans were glad to see that the European empire's control of the Americas were weakened. They look forward to increased trade between the United States and these new Latin American countries. On July 4, 1821, Secretary of State John Quincy Adams gave a speech to Congress, and he said, "Wherever the standard of freedom and independence has been or shall be unfurled, there will her heart, her benedictions, her prayers be." Meaning that America would support any country that was fighting to gain its own independence. He did not say that we would go in and fight for them or with them. President Monroe demonstrated America's support of these new Latin American countries or republics by recognizing them officially. In 1822, the Quadruple or Holy Alliance of France, Austria, Russia, and Prussia discussed a plan to help Spain regain its American holdings. The possibility of increased European involvement in North America led President Monroe to decide to take action. In 1823, Monroe declared that the American continents were not to be considered as subjects for future colonization by any European powers. He basically drew a line in the sand and said, "Do not cross, stay out, keep out, big stop sign, do not enter." He went on to say that any foreign military expeditions sent to the Western Hemisphere would be seen as a threat to the U.S., and Monroe warned that no European country should interfere in U.S. affairs at home or abroad. It kind of boiled down to, you don't mess with us, we don't mess with you. You stay out of our affairs, we'll stay out of your affairs. And he extended the protection of the United States for all of the Americas, all of the Western Hemisphere, North America, Central America, and South America. Monroe's policy became known as the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine began America's foreign policy, preventing European powers from interfering with Latin American politics, and also keeping European powers out of all of the Americas. And now you know a little bit about James Monroe's presidency.